Don't compare yourself to others. Just compare yourself to the previous version of yourself the day before and just improve on that.
Don't just look at the upside, look at the downside as well.
We don't just do documents. We want to meet with you. We want to understand, what are your goals with an estate plan? What are we trying to accomplish?
People think that people are going to automatically listen, but if you get in a really situation where it's kind of touch and go, you want to have those documents in place, right? I mean, those are like as important as when you pass.
We can design the greatest estate plan that was ever written, but if we're writing a trust and the assets do not align with the trust or the beneficiaries are not designated, then it doesn't matter who writes your estate plan.
People have to understand is AI will make 3 massive mistakes.
We have a policy that nothing is drafted using AI.
If you could go back and give your younger self advice, what would it be? Welcome to today's PlanAssist Podcast. So welcome everyone back. I am Tim Clifford. I'm a certified financial planner. I have a small investment practice here in Winter Garden, Florida, and we do these podcasts with different people in the community that are successful or running businesses to help people make better financial decisions. I'm super excited to welcome Cameron White. Cameron's an estate planning attorney based in Central Florida. He's just down the road from where I am in Windermere. He helps individuals, families, family-owned businesses who want clarity on structure, peace of mind around kind of legal planning. What I really appreciate about Cameron's approach is that he keeps it grounded. Estate planning is not about kind of just having a document because you need a document. It's more about how do we put a document together that really helps you reduce friction between loved ones, makes life work if something does happen to you or something happens to your significant other, but really put them in place to really make things better so that when things go on, there's not these big fights or different things going on in the family. So Cameron also works closely with small business owners, families, and thinks about succession. So with that, Cameron, welcome. And do you want to have anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, good morning, Tim. Thank you very
Good
much
morning.
for having me. I think you hit the nail on the head with how we handle our practice and how we approach estate planning in a very granular way, more or less. Pathway law. We see it all the time with clients. Not everyone wakes up in the morning and says, I need to go see a lawyer. So what we do is, similar to you, we want people to understand exactly what is the meaning behind the documents. What is it that they're signing? Just not come in, look at some documents and leave.
Exactly. So your business isn't all that different from mine or the insurance industry, et cetera. People do not wake up and want to come see us. They almost try to avoid us, but the problem with avoiding us is when they need us, a lot of times we could have been a lot more impactful had they called us before versus after a particular event. A lot of people come to us event driven when in reality, the best way to engage with people like us is pre-events.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, without a doubt. And a lot of people ask us, what do you charge for this? What do you charge for that? Well, I mean, it's not that simple.
Exactly.
Because when the crisis hits, it's probably going to cost about 10 times more than if the planning was done properly at the outset or even beforehand. So making incremental changes or starting, even with the very basics can save you a lot of time, money, and stress in the future.
Exactly. And again, when I try to get into these conversations around costs, I really try to help people understand that there's a cost to do something kind of upfront. And I totally understand it. So I'm not downplaying the importance of understanding costs and how much it costs to do something. But most people don't do what Warren Buffett suggested in one of the best Berkshire Hathaway annual meetings I ever saw. Was someone asked him, said, what was the best kind of financial lesson you learned? And with no pause, he immediately said, invert everything. And what he meant by that was, don't just look at the upside, look at the downside as well. So when you look at something like, he was a weatherman as an example in the Army, and he was trying to help the pilots go on these missions and stay alive, right? I mean, without having to crash. Well, one of the things he figured out was focusing on the good weather didn't really help them. It was focusing on that there's thunderstorms, there's low clouds, there's winds. Those kinds of things were much better to help them with their things. The same thing applies, I kind of say, to you and I, is if they'll think about, okay, it costs this much to do this, but what about if this happens, how much does it cost? So how much do I save if the invert happens?
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. I mean, we have clients come in from time to time, and it's a mix of them that
Uh,
say, well, I just finished the probating a sibling's estate or my parents' estate or something like that. And I don't want my kids or my
exactly.
family to go through
That's
that.
right.
So what do we need to do to get this in place?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, a lot of times that is true. So it's like they see it happen and then they come in. So I kind of got a little bit ahead of myself. We got into a conversation. I want to go back because I start all these podcasts with the same question. And it's if you could go back and give your younger self advice, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. You know, to go back to my younger self, I would say don't compare yourself to others. Just compare
That's good.
yourself to the previous version of yourself the day before and just improve on that.
That's really good advice. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do without a doubt with all of the tools that are out there, social media and all of that. So you're comparing yourself to others. But if you just compare yourself to the previous version and just improve on that little bit
Hmm.
each day,
Yep.
be great.
That's great advice. So I see where you do seminars for clients to come in and get information. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Maybe that'll help us with some conversations. So what's those seminars typically? Are they typically focused on like trust as an example? Are they more estate planning or do you have different topics?
Oh, well, that's also a very good question. With our seminars, we open those up to the public and they're basic educational seminars. And what
Okay.
we discuss is what's the difference between a will and a trust?
Oh, good. Yeah.
Why do I need, I read this online and trust me, Google is a really great marketing tool for us because everyone goes to search Google as to why they need something that Florida does not offer or recognize. So they come to us and we say, well, it's not going to work here. But getting back to the seminars, it's a basic understanding. What's a will? What's a trust? Who are the parties involved? What are the roles involved? Who's going to make financial decisions for you when you're incapacitated? What are some ways that you can avoid probate? Who can make healthcare decisions for you when you cannot? We go through the entire process of what it's like to work with us
Oh,
and what
good.
it's like to have an estate plan prepared by Pathway Law and how we treat each client really as you're the only client that we have. We don't just do documents. That we tell this to clients all the time. We want to meet with you. We want to understand what are your goals with an estate plan? What are we trying to accomplish? We also use the seminars to bust or myth bust, I guess you can say. Because, like I said, people read things on the internet and say, well, I need a trust because of this. Or I think all I need is a will because so and so said it. And they're based in Illinois or New York or Texas. Or I did this online will, and I think it's enough. But when we take a look at those are great starting points. But when we take a look at that, sometimes they're interpreted in California, or they're under New York law, or whatever it is. It may not be Florida compliant. So the seminars are a great way for people to come and just basically understand what estate planning is.
And a lot of times if they can come and go have dinner beforehand on their own and kind of then go as a significant other, whether it's a spouse or significant other, a lot of times one party's kind of up for it and the other party is a little more reserved, maybe a best way to word it. And by coming to something like that, it's a good way to get both people on the same page, right? So it's not this fire hose of information. It's more just a conversation for the most part about here's what estate planning is and here's what it's not because a lot of people do way overthink it.
Oh, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. One person, if they're coming as a couple, one person may really be very interested in it, and the other one is just tagging along. But our approach is a very simplistic approach,
Uh-huh.
and there's zero pressure whatsoever. You want to schedule an appointment with us? Fantastic. We'd love to sit down and meet with you even more. If
Right.
not, there's no obligation.
Yeah.
But at least we provided you some information to think about.
So some of the biggest things that I see as a financial advisor. So this is a common challenge I have. Obviously, I don't do estate planning, so but when I do my reviews and I'm sitting down with clients, one of my check marks is do you have your estate documents up to date, right? And they'll say, no, or they don't really need it, or they're in a situation. I mean, they'll still have significant assets, but they'll have things titled according to what they want. So most of the assets will get to where they want them to go by titling. And I'll explain to them, I'll say, you realize that those estate documents probably have, well, they do have a lot of value when you pass away, but they have almost exponentially more value pre you passing away. Like people don't realize, like if something happens to you, who has power of attorney, who has healthcare power of attorney, who has financial power of attorney. I said, if you don't have a healthcare power of attorney in place and something happens to you, the doctors are not going to listen to your wife. They're going to kind of go. People think that people are going to automatically listen, but if you get in a really situation where it's kind of touch and go, you want to have those documents in place, right? I mean, those are like probably more as important as when you pass.
Oh, absolutely. And some of the comments we receive is some of the comments, my family already knows what I want. Well, that's
Exactly.
great,
Yeah,
but
no,
the
that's
doctors
right.
don't.
And the doctors won't listen to the families. I mean, people don't realize, I mean, the HIPAA laws and the things that they have to abide by there, they will not, without legal documents, provide a lot of information and or take a lot of direction from someone without those documents.
Oh, absolutely. And some of the comments we receive, well, not comments, but actually questions. Well, can I just sign them at the hospital or at the doctor's office?
Uh-huh.
Well, sure, you can do that, but do you read what the document says? Do you know who you're releasing your medical information to?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you authorizing and to whom are you authorizing it?
And you have to be to do those documents when you go to the hospital. What if you're in a car wreck and you're not even conscious?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely correct. And people don't, and that's why, like I said, we have these conversations with clients
Uh-huh.
and we just point this stuff out.
So my process is just like yours. It's super simple. So like I have this process I call PlanAssist that is three basic steps to helping people make better financial. Have a plan, be diversified, seek counsel. And I just constantly circle back around across those three core principles, right? And the having a plan, estate plan, diversification, how much money am I saving? Put money in a 401k. All those are part of a plan. But I tell people this isn't about making some 45-page PDF. This is about being clear about where you are now, where do you need to go, and then what are those two or three or four things we need to focus on this year and next year to kind of get you there. And for a lot of people, it does include having some either basic estate plan or a more detailed estate plan, depending on the complexity of their lives, right? So if they have,
Yeah.
this is a second marriage and there's yours, mine, and yours, mine, and ours children. And, then it's even more important than say you're myself, single marriage, one kid.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And like we tell clients all the time is we can design the greatest estate plan that was ever written.
Uh-huh.
But if we're writing a trust and the assets do not align with the trust or the beneficiaries are not designated, then it doesn't matter who writes your estate plan. It doesn't matter. We work alongside financial advisors like yourself to make sure, okay, if Tim has an estate plan, are the beneficiaries up to date? Where are things in the process? So, there's a lot more to it than documents.
Exactly. And I'm going to tell just a really quick story that I think will help people that are listening to grasp how nuanced trust business is. So I went and sat down with a trust firm, right? So it was one of the big trust firms here in Orlando. And I was talking to them about kind of some good stories and some of the more challenging stories. And one of the more challenging stories they were working through at that particular time was there was a 65-year-old gentleman who passed away. He had about $6 million in assets. He only had two daughters. One daughter was not married with no child. The other daughter was married with one child, right? So had one son. And so the way that he said, just take the $6 million and put it with this trust department, right? So he was managing it himself, but he says, you guys aren't going to be capable. And like what happens a lot of times with someone with some decent assets, they'll say, we want these assets to not outlive the person, right? I mean, those are common words that you see all the time. And those of you listening to this, those are common words. But what happened in this case was when they wrote the trust document, they wrote the assets couldn't outlive the grandchild.
Mm.
Now, on the surface, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but now you're the second daughter who doesn't have a child. You're 40, 45 years old. She came in and said, I want to get $1 million to do an extension on my house or whatever it is. Well, the trust department said, no, you can't, because I can't guarantee that if that was just her 3 million, she's 50, 55, that'd have been no problem, right? But the trust department said, we can't, when we run the numbers and give you $1 million, this may not outlast the 10-year-old's life. Right now, the daughter's all upset about that, saying, that wouldn't have been how my dad wanted it. And the other daughter's like, that's how my dad would have wanted it. And like the trust person said, that's how they wrote it. And I said, but you don't really know how he wanted it, do you? And she said, no, we don't really know. Right. I mean, I mean, it's kind of easy, like, because even the trust officer was telling me, well, that's what he wanted. And I said, do you really know that for sure? Or was because
Right.
this was like, because no one really kind of went in and had a conversation like you're talking about, right? They didn't sit down with you and say, here's what I'm thinking about. Here's why it is. And then there was no other document. It was just this, he passes. Here's the document.
Right. Oh, no, it's very important when we meet with a client and we review what we have drafted and what they
Right.
have told us, we'll review it and make sure, okay, this is what you intended. Is
That's
this
right.
is this correct? Or this is who you have named as beneficiaries. Is this correct?
Right.
Are you planning for any additional grandchildren? We had an estate plan couple come in 2 weeks ago, I believe, 3 weeks ago. Their original will was done 25 years ago, named one child. They had four.
Wow.
And that when the document was drafted in 20, 25 years ago, it did not include subsequent children. They thought it did. They intended it to be.
Yeah, that's the word, right? It's intention. What do you
Right,
intend? And
right.
that's the piece that people can get themselves in a lot of trouble because obviously the people getting stuff will read into intent.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why we like to build relationships with clients. So
Yeah,
when you come to us, you're not a number, you're not, but you're more of a person, you're more of a friend that, hey, every 2 to 3 years, and that's another question we get from people is how often should I update my estate plan? Every 2 to 3 years, life changes.
no, that's
The
right.
and so we don't know, and we tell clients there's about 4 or 5 variables, unknown variables. Number one, in order for this plan to work, we don't know what assets you're going to have when you pass away. We don't know what the laws will be when you pass away. We don't know the value of your assets when you pass away. And we don't know what date you'll pass away. So it's important that every 2 to 3, maybe 3 to 5 years, we sit down and we review your estate plan, making sure, just like you said earlier, are these still your intentions? Has
That's right.
anything changed? Have you updated? And this is another big one we find after we have done the estate plan. Okay, you said you were going to update your beneficiaries. A year later, we ask them, have you done this? Well, no, I haven't. That's why we encourage or allow us to work with your financial advisor, your CPA, to make sure, okay, have we updated the beneficiaries like you have asked? Because it's part of your estate plan. Otherwise, if not, if one of those beneficiaries predecease you, then maybe it goes to your estate or
Maybe it
and
divides across the number. No, that's right. I mean, how it gets people
yeah,
don't realize. Now, see, what I find personally, and again, I have a relatively small practice. I only have 50 client households, but What I see more times than not is I'll make sure that the titles on the accounts I'm managing have transfer on death and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty
Yeah,
easy because I'm managing it, right? That's the
yeah,
easy part. The part that's not easy is they also will have an IRA somewhere else. They'll have a 401k that they haven't transferred over that's at a company they worked for 5 years ago. It's those assets that are a little more difficult to make sure that they get on them and get them updated, because
yeah.
and only what 50% of Americans even have a will, a basic will.
Correct. Absolutely. And yeah, it's just a matter of making sure that everything is accounted for, and we do everything that we possibly can with the information we have, just like you. As long as you have that information, you can make things work.
That's right. And I can do one of the things that I really help people with is that's why I pushed back a little bit with this trust officer. She says, "Well, that's what he intended." I said, "Do you know that for sure? Because you didn't really know him. That just ended up kind of happening, right? I mean, intentions matter. Like some people they don't need some people want to leave as much money as possible to their children, and other people want to spend or kind of live their lifestyle X without worrying about what they're passing on. I mean, there's nothing wrong with either one. It's just one, you manage the money differently based on kind of what their intentions are.
Right. Absolutely. Yes.
So, okay, so let's shift so we've talked a little bit about some of the successes and kind of the importance of estate planning. Talk to me about what are you seeing with AI? I find it personally, it's like super fascinating. So as a financial advisor, this feels to me like 1999, 2000 all over again when the internet kind of came about, and there was tons of misinformation about the internet's going to replace financial advisors, and you're going to be able to get all this information, and it's going to cause havoc in whatever it is. Which I kind of hear the same stuff with AI, though will say it's a little bit easier to use. What's kind of your experience with AI as an attorney, like with your clients? What's like, how are you guys using it? What do you kind of see with it?
With AI, first, to me, it's a landmine,
Uh-huh.
and it's very dangerous if it's not used properly.
Right.
We do get some clients who prepare a will or a trust using AI, and it's wrong. So we always equate it out to going to a dentist to have heart surgery. It's just not going to work. Okay. Cheaper is not always better. AI has it's very good. It's a very good resource, more or less. As it relates to law, you say you're saying about 1999, 2000 with the internet. Well, let's go back to living maybe even 20 years before that with the advent of the computer, because lawyers, everything used to be typewritten in triplicate with carbon paper. And those attorneys who were able to adapt to using a computer, a desktop, found it was a little bit faster for them to
Uh-huh.
get work out.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And so those who were resistant to computer, those kind of got left behind. So now the internet comes around. Information is readily accessible. More so, cases are published quicker than they are printed. So those that could embrace the internet had a little bit more of an advantage. Same thing with AI. Like I said, if it can be used responsibly, perhaps it can improve your systems. It can create better marketing plans for yourself. Things of that nature, I think it has its place. As long as it's used responsibly in the practice of law, we have a policy that nothing is drafted using AI,
Okay.
period. Nothing. Okay. Just because there's errors in it and it's in its
Right.
infancy. Nothing has been perfected yet. Whether it's going to be perfected or not, I have no idea. But there are all sorts of tools. We do it. We use it a little bit for marketing purposes.
Right. Yeah, I find it really helpful. And I don't use it for putting a plan together necessarily. I don't use it for giving advice for sure. But I do use it for running my business. I do find my productivity is much, much higher. I don't know what percentage higher. It's probably not 100%, but it's 25, 30, 40% more productive because I use AI for emails, for checking, like grammar check, that kind of stuff. And again, it sounds minor, but to put together just even a little 100-word email can take 15, 20 minutes, right? With AI, it can take 5.
Yeah.
It still takes time though, because you still got to read through it. You still have to adjust the words. It's still got to get your voice in that. So it doesn't replace the need to review it and put your voice into the message, but it does save time. That's probably my biggest kind of interesting learnings from it is I do find it interesting from that perspective. Running my
It,
business, I guess, is the best
yeah.
way.
Now, on a personal side, I kind of have fun with it sometimes
Uh-huh.
because I will, I'll use some various prompts as in write something about X in the style or tone of Hemingway, or I'll use a favorite author
Uh-huh.
to do that. And the way it comes out is just blows me away. I mean, so you can play around with it a little bit like that.
But I have to be way more business aware of AI, I think, than you as an attorney because clients are going to use it a lot more for financial advice than they're going to for legal advice, right? I mean,
Yeah,
and again, I'll get in debates with clients. I'll say, no, 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 my clients don't use it. I say, they do use it. Maybe not all of them, but you realize that even if you have 20% of your clients utilizing it, and it doesn't mean they're using it kind of, oh, that's the answer and I'm going to go do it. They're using it to just build confidence in what I'm telling them, right? I mean, they're
hmm,
using it for Q&A. I can tell they're using it because they'll come in and when I have a review with them, they don't come with their questions, but it's very obvious the questions they're asking, they're just way more sophisticated questions than they would have been 2 years ago. They're really good questions, so I'm not downplaying it, but you can tell they're more knowledgeable or they're at least perceived to be more knowledgeable about something. And and
yeah,
I think that's the piece that I, as a financial advisor, I can't kind of pause on using AI in the financial services, not with clients and obviously information and all that kind of stuff. So I still got to stay in the guardrails, but I can't kind of it'll get adopted faster in the financial services world than it will in the legal firm, just like the internet did, right? So in the financial, I was at Schwab for 10 years. So I was at Schwab when we actually went to online trading and all that. So there's a percentage of people that are just going to adopt it much, much faster and being aware of kind of what it does good and what it does bad, and then help people kind of what's the best way to use it. That's probably the biggest thing that I use AI when I'm talking to clients. I'm like, here's how you should use it. If you think my
yeah.
fees are too high, run through AI, ask them, say, what's a typical financial advisor charge? That's fine. I mean, I'll come back and say, no, that what you ask it the wrong question. Let's ask it this question, or those kinds of things, right? I mean,
Oh, absolutely. And, with that as well, I've got a colleague up in Atlanta who built his own chat bot, whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called, but his own GPT within chat to monitor what blog posts his competitors are writing. So he knows, okay, this is what I need to be talking about because this is what my competitors are talking about. So he's using it more as a research tool than he is anything else.
yeah, no, that's right. I mean, research, organization, time management, communication, education for clients, all that stuff, even though I know we're in our infancies, it's going to be a big part of both of our lives. It'll be a much bigger part of my life than yours early on, though. I do, the financial services world, they always adopt client, even if it's 20% of clients, that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a really big number, right?
Sure.
I mean, if you take my clients, I have 50 households. If you have 20% adopting it, it can easily be 50% of the households,
Hmm.
right? Because yeah, most people won't adopt it, but the person who's kind of managing the money and, asking the questions, et cetera, there's always usually one person that's a little more interested than the others. And that person's, 15, 20, 25% of that group's using it.
Right. Absolutely. I completely agree.
So yeah, I think it is going to change the way we engage with clients. I still don't see it. I even wrote a whole article on it. It's not going to replace financial advisors, just like everyone thought it was going to replace the internet was going to. I'm like, no, but it is going to change the way we engage with clients and prepare for meetings and help clients become more educated.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think also that getting back to what you were saying, the time management, the organizational skills will certainly improve
Right.
because AI today is completely different than what it was 6 months ago, and
Totally. No, that's right.
what you can, yeah,
Like when I wrote my year end, I always do a year end letter, to all my clients, right? So, kind of what happened year end, and I send them kind of their annual report. And I went back and I use AI to help me. I drafted, then I put in AI, and then I drafted, and then I put in AI and go through. But I went back and looked at just the quality of the letter, not like a ego thing. Oh my God, I'm getting much better or something like that. But just the messaging of the letter from 2025, and I went back and looked at my 2020 letter. I'm not kidding, Cameron. I was like, I looked like I was in kindergarten 5 years ago
incredible.
because when I did the annual letter, I wrote it as, hey, you are a family office communicating with family members that are part of a high wealth manning. So I would need to hit on things that those family members would be interested in based on the last year, right? And those people aren't always interested in returns, right? And they're not interested in details, right? Which is stuff like as a financial advisor where I'm so numbers driven. I think the best way it helps me is it keeps me from writing a letter that I would want to read, right? Because it's not about me, it's about the
Right,
client.
right, absolutely.
Right. And so when I read it, if I go back and read my old letters, I'm more writing it. I don't mean to write it like that, but it's just kind of natural where I'm writing it like it's for me. When
Yeah,
I'm like, no, 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 I need to write this for this kind of person.
correct. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that
Yeah, exactly. I
because
mean
it can
that's
actually help us communicate the way that we intended.
That's right. It goes back to intention, right? It goes
Yes.
back to that. It keeps us like, especially those of us that are in a little bit bubble, right? I mean, like I have a solo practice. It's not like I have a legal department, a compliance department. I don't have a marketing department kind of around me pushing back. So it kind of helps me with just keeping me out of a bubble. But I completely agree. The three things that kind of finish this AI conversation up, what people have to understand is AI will make three massive mistakes that every single AI will do. So number one is it'll hallucinate. So it'll just give you the
Oh
wrong
yeah.
answer. Okay. So it'll always do that. Okay. It'll sycophant, meaning if you give it follow-up questions, it will always agree. It doesn't matter the subject. You can always get AI to agree with you on like 90+% of subject. If you ask it enough follow-up questions. I think they call it, they actually have a word for it. I think it's called sycophanting or sycophant or something like that, but it basically means a yes man, right? So you can
Interesting.
turn it into being a yes man. And so when you're asking it questions, should I have a will or should I have a trust? If your propensity is to have a will and you ask it enough questions, it will agree
Oh
a will will be fine.
yeah.
If your
Interesting.
if your propensity is to have a trust and you ask it enough follow-up questions, it'll tell you should have a trust.
Interesting. That is very interesting.
Yeah,
I
no, I
hadn't thought
mean,
about that.
yeah, and it'll literally do it 100% of the time. Like, because that's why I'll have clients that'll kind of go down this path and they'll say they're asking a question. I'll say, then let's do a three-way and let me see what you're asking it because you're kind of going through the process. So people have to kind of grasp that is kind of the second one. And then the third one is it will just constantly, and it kind of goes to the sycophant is it'll give you bias. And the bias, especially if you have one of the paid services,
Hmm.
you don't realize it, but it's looking back after you, right? So it'll always you won't notice it, but it'll have a kind of bias tilt to it based on your history, right? So if you're an investor and you have a tendency not to like annuities, right? And you had a big negative conversation about annuities, even if it was 5 years ago in your paid subscription, and then you start having a conversation around annuities, it'll have a tendency to give you kind of a anti-annuity slant.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I had not recognized that.
Yeah, no, but if you use it you'll see those three things. I have an admin that I work with Heather, and I constantly tell her, I say, make sure, man, you just take those things, put them off to the side, because whenever you're asking questions, it's going to give you those three kind of big challenges. And I think that's where like people who worry about AI taking over, I'm like, there's no way because you can't fix those three problems. Those are
Right.
not fixable problems.
Right.
Tho-
Absolutely.
No matter how smart it gets, those are like infrastructure kind of those are to their core. You're not fixing them. And
Yep.
I'll get I mean so anyways, that's kind of my AI rant on using it. But again, I have a lot more clients that will bump into it than say you will. And I do think that's true. I don't have clients that'll ask it legal questions. They don't
Oh,
seem to.
trust me. I'm sure we get them, and I'm
Uh-huh.
sure those clients have done their research through AI, and they will come in to a meeting with AI questions or AI generated questions. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. But it's probably less likely today than it is for advisors. But as you go, it'll probably be more and more. But anyways,
Yeah.
so how do people get in contact with you? Again, how do people reach out? Give us a little bit about yourself so we'll kind of finish on more about connecting
Yeah.
with you and how to
Okay.
reach out and touch bases.
Absolutely. Well, once again, thank you for having me, Tim. I am a Florida native, born and raised in Central Florida, spent a little time in North Florida as well. Two adult daughters, both born here, wife
That's
just
unusual,
across
isn't
the
it?
border. What's that?
That's unusual, isn't it? Like I'm from
Yes, it
Indiana. I've
is.
been down here since find Florida natives is not that's not very common, especially here in Orlando.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so Florida native. Best way to get in touch with us is either our phone number, 407-792-6011, or our website, pathwaylawpa.com.
Okay.
And if anyone has questions, we're always happy to answer any questions that people have. There's certainly zero obligation, even when we have the seminars, zero obligations. To find out when we have our next seminar, feel free to reach out to us by phone or look on our website. We do post those dates there. Yeah, that's
Where do you
basically it.
typically have your seminars at? What kind how do you what
We have
locations?
them. We have them in community centers, public
Okay.
libraries.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, or here in our office as well.
Okay. So just depending on what the subject is and how many people you're looking to get there, you pick the facility accordingly,
Yeah,
basically.
absolutely. I mean, like I said, our seminars are very basic, estate planning, educational. That's what they are. They're all educational.
Boy, I really
And
encourage people to take you up on that because just one, if it stops you from making one mistake, it can save your heirs thousands of dollars.
oh, absolutely. And a lot of aggravation. We can guide you through not only the estate planning, but also through the probate side as well. What to expect, what's the timeline that you could possibly face, things of that nature. Because people don't realize that when you're named as the personal representative or a successor trustee, it's a job. There are certain duties involved that you have to make yourself available to. And we want people to understand that. We want people to realize, wow, do I really want this person to serve as my backup trustee or my personal representative when they travel 4 out of 5 days a week, or they can't commit to this rigorous schedule, or just all sorts of things.
Well,
So,
and they don't realize it's fiduciary. It's no different than yours and
yes,
my job. I mean, it's not some part-time do it off the corner of your desk. Uh,
exactly.
so to finish this, and this will be a totally different podcast, but I'd be really interested in doing a podcast with you or a colleague or someone that has a conversation is around where the business is going for a select group of clients and just hyper focus on this clients. And here's what my hypothesis is, and it's totally hypothesis. So I'm not saying I know the answer to this, but I've been doing financial services forever, right? I mean, so since I was 20, right? I started on the floor of the exchanges. So the only thing I've ever done is that I've worked in lots of different roles though. So I've worked at Schwab, Ameriprise, Block, and H&R Block, et cetera. But the one thing that I'm finding as I get older and go into working with more and more people who are in retirement or getting ready for retirement is there's a section of the business that there's a massive hole for a certain number of clients. So like I have a really good friend, okay? I worked with him for years. He has 5, 6 million bucks and he loves his financial advisor. I said, but he's not your last relationship. And he goes, "Oh yeah, he is." And I said, "No, he's not." I said, "He's not." I said, you don't have any children." I said, "So what happens?" My point is there's this one window for some clients that advisors and attorneys can't help clients, and almost no one's filling it. And what I mean by that is that client that finds themselves with no one to make the trustee, right? So because I can't do it, I'm an RIA, I can't legally be a trustee on a client's account, right? So that the legal piece, I can help clients up to some point, but then that point is I can't help them, right? I mean, so now they need to get a trustee that's outside of family.
Yeah.
And I think that there's like some of these smaller trust departments are trying to fill that void, but I think there's a massive void. I just think that a lot of people think that they're covered all the way to end of life when they're actually not.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to have that conversation with you.
Do you think that there's some truth to that or not? Or do you see that as an issue, like with clients that, what happens if they don't have heirs that can step in and act as fiduciary financial people?
Oh, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. And there is a major void
Yeah.
in for this. We see it quite a bit. Not
I,
not every client is like that, but
no, no, no.
um,
Because not every client has that kind of money, right? I mean, so that's why I said it's a very select segment of client, but that client that has, call it $3 to $5 million in net worth with no responsible heirs,
correct.
what happens if X event happens?
Absolutely correct. And that's where we start talking to clients, peeling the layers of the onion back, and we help them with decision making as to who to select
Right.
because they say, well, that's just the closest person, but is that the best person? Just like with guardians for their kids, is that the best person? Well, then once we start talking about it, do they share your same
Yeah,
beliefs? Do they
that's
share
good.
this? Do they
Right.
share that? Then they start thinking, oh gosh, well, no, I never really thought of it that way.
And the financial person, again, like for me, if something happens to me, my money goes to a trust department, right? And I tell them I'm not going to try to manage the money from the grave, but I tell them, and I have it written in the documents, like hard, big bold letters, is your job is not to run out of money in her lifetime. Everything else is kind of up for conversation, but running out of money is not an option, right?
Absolutely.
And that's not everyone's goal, right? But that's an example. I'm not saying that should be or that is everyone's goal, but people don't realize that when they get in that situation, who takes care of the health care? Who's going to help me in my long-term care facility? Who's going to help me in the nursing home? Who's going to help me in the that's all that could be one person, but the person managing the money, that needs to be another person who has some skill sets that kind of hold them responsible both legally and can hold them accountable, right? I mean, because if they run out of money, there
Yeah.
needs to be some responsibility on their part.
Oh, absolutely. And what we tell clients a lot of times, which AI doesn't tell them this, but we let them know you can name an investment advisor in your if if
Mhm.
if we're doing a trust, you can name an investment advisor. Who do you want that to be? That your successor trustee can turn to and say, okay, this is who we want.
But even with that, and that's why I think it's another phone call, it just becomes a
Yeah.
conversation. That has to be done with a lot more research and intentionality than you think,
Oh,
because
absolutely. Oh,
depending on how
absolutely.
that advisor, like people will do that. They'll say, okay, well, you're going to take care of my money if I do that. Yeah, I said, you can't do that. Don't put me down. I said, I can't do it. If you
Right.
put me down, I'll have to deny it, not because I don't want to help them or help them go through a process. I'm just not registered. I'm not in a position that allows me to do it.
Yes. Absolutely correct.
Right? I mean, it has to be a fiduciary, it has to be a trust. I can't have access to people's money. I'm just not
Hmm.
licensed to do it. And most advisors are not.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where we have this conversation with the clients because what they read on the internet, they're not getting the full story.
And most of their advisors aren't telling them the full story because they'll say, well, I'm going to help you to the end. I'm like, you're not helping them. Stop saying that. That's not true.
Correct. Absolutely.
So, anyways, maybe we will circle back around as we kind of can flesh out that idea, maybe just have a conversation about, okay, this is for this group of people and, why this would matter.
Correct.
So,
Yeah. Happy to.
All right, cool. Well, thanks so much, Cameron. I appreciate you coming on. If you guys have any questions, reach out to Cameron or go to one of his seminars and get some basic information. So I appreciate it. And thanks again.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks a lot.